Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Michael's Record Collection, where we talk about great music with the people who make it and the people who love it. I am happy to be joined today by a member of Gazpacho, Thomas Andersen, one of the founding members. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate it. You guys have a new album coming out on K-Scope Records, October 31st, your first album since 2020's Fireworker album, your 12th studio album, and it's called Magic 8 Ball. And I can't wait to get into that album with you a little bit. But first, I want to ask you what I normally ask my guests, and that is, Thomas, what was your first favorite record?
My first favorite record was Kate Bush Hounds of Love,
Okay.
which weirdly I have to say is still my favorite record. So I don't know if that means that I sort of became programmed to like that one or if that was a lucky hit. But I got into Hounds of Love. I used to go shopping for my grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and she had MTV, which was new in Norway back in the day. And I saw the Kate Bush, the clown busting video, and I thought, damn, that was good. So I took my pocket money, went and bought the album, and was totally and utterly hooked. And even now, whenever I listen to it, it strikes me as the most brilliant album ever made. So that was my first, and still is my favorite record. Whereas I would say maybe Marillion Misplaced Childhood or Yes, Close to the Edge might share the number two slot there.
Those are all fantastic choices. So you, right off the bat, you were, Kate isn't exactly progressive, but very art rock focused, and it seems like you gravitated towards the progressive rock pretty early in life. Then,
Yeah, I think because back in those days, John, the guitar player, and I, we we met in Kuwait, where our parents were working. We were school kids in Kuwait, so we were because a lot of Kuwaitis weren't allowed to play with us white kids. We had to stick together, so we spent a lot of time together, and we used to listen to music, and we got into music together, and we discovered Marillion. At the same time, both got heavily into Marillion, and then we branched backwards in time. So we sort of, I guess, misplaced. Marillion was sort of the last of the old progressive rock bands like Genesis, Jethro Tull, yes, all those bands. We went backwards into the history of progressive rock, starting from Kate Bush and Marillion, and some Ultravox in there.
yeah. Well, how interesting for you, because then you became a Marillion fan, and then years later you performed. You guys did shows together with Marillion.
Yeah, that was a pinch yourself moment because they sort of went from posters on the wall to being personal friends, and we're still friends with them today. And they come visit. They've come and visited me here at my house, and we visit them, and it's been a hell of an adventure.
Now, is it just coincidental that your band has the same name as a Marillion song?
No, not at all. Back again, this was the band is from early '90s, and there used to be a screensaver on those. Remember those old screensavers they had on the
Yeah.
windows uh, that had the lyrics for the latest Marillion album, which was "Afraid of Sunlight" at the time, and one of the songs was called "Gazpacho." We said, "What the hell? Let's take the name Gazpacho." The original idea for the band Gazpacho was, what would it be if we made a band that explored the same themes and had the same atmosphere and mood of Marillion, but it was like a mariachi band, a Latino band. That was the original idea for Gazpacho. So then we started making music, trying to follow that route, and then we totally sidetracked and went off into our very serious and sort of almost very self-serious direction, you could say, I guess.
Now, where did the mariachi come in? Who brought that flavor to the mix? What was the thought behind that?
Well, that was John and I. Just we just thought it would be funny.
Okay.
We're silly people. We're not very serious people, which you couldn't tell from the music, I guess. But we joke around, laugh around a lot, uh, and there was also an instinct in there. I think that music is, and I guess that's the soul of progressive rock, isn't it? That music is something that you should be able to experiment with and play with, and try to see if you can make new things happen. At least that's how I see progressive rock. So what would happen if we made a mariachi version of a band like Brilliant?
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
Now, when did you and Jon-Arne meet Jan-Henrik? Because the three of you are original members of this band.
I used to work with this girlfriend, and when she heard that I did music, she said, "Oh, you need to meet my ex-boyfriend. He sings, and he's a great singer." And at that time, I was starting my business in the radio spots, and I needed someone to sing jingles. You remember the old jingles they used to have for radio stations?
Oh yeah.
303. And Jan-Henrik was an expert at making those harmonies, because the harmonies in radio jingles, they're sort of very special kind of chords, just automatically make it sound like a jingle.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
hear that. So he
Yeah.
knew how to make those harmonies, and I didn't, because I didn't know what I was doing at the time whatsoever. I just wanted to work in that business so I could have a studio, which you used to have a real studio back in the day. So he got in there, and they said, "Why don't we have him sing in this Latino mariachi progressive rock band?" And then he sang, and that's, I think, the sound. When we heard the sound of his voice paired with some of the stuff that we were making, I think that's when we knew that we were onto something that was interesting. And that's when we made all the songs that ended up on our first album, which was called Bravo, which I believe would be, I can't, 1998, maybe, something like that. I can't remember.
That sounds right. Yeah, it that's kind of where I kind of came into the Gazpacho timeline. Was I was doing a progressive rock radio show, and the station had copies of When Earth Lets Go and Bravo, and I'm like, oh, Gazpacho, like the Marillion song, and I gave that a listen, and I enjoyed what I was hearing. And you guys have changed your sound quite a bit. I think you went for more accessible stuff earlier in your career, but this voice you have lends itself to what you guys have done the last several albums, which is this moody, dark, layered, textured, atmospheric, expressive type of music.
I think so too. We At the beginning, because we were still finding our direction back in the days of Bravo and When Earth Let's Go. I think once we made the album Night, which is 2007, where we just said, we're not really going to become rock stars, are we? So fuck it, let's just do something wild. And that sort of found a new sort of demographic that tended to be into that, and it seemed to work with that. We seemed to be able to create moods that people like to be in and stay in for some time. So where songs would be hypnotic and they would be sort of very suggestive and atmospheric, and you could put it on and just sort of lose yourself in them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we sort of stumbled into and then found our direction almost organically through the mix of his voice with some of our stuff.
Yeah. What I really enjoy about your songs, especially the longer ones, is that you have this way of building tension, uh, and then finally, it climaxes. You have the release, but it reminds me that all of these little bits that you put in that builds that tension. It made me curious. Do any of you have a background in theater or in film scores?
No, the only film scoring I do would be short films, to a little bit of short films and ads, commercials. So I would say that I think maybe the reason for the length and the richness of the ideas that we can put into them, it could in many ways be a reaction that I might have to making a 20 or 30-second commercial film. If you're making the soundtrack for a car, you've got 20, 30 seconds. You need to get in there and get out, and bam, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
But and when no one's paying you to work, you could sort of make it as long and as eclectic as you like.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe there's a little bit of a reaction to that. But I think the cinematic and the storytelling part of that, I think, is mostly because it's we're always trying to make the same album. Every Gazpacho album is an attempt to make that one album to make our Kate Bush Hounds of Love. And Kate Bush Hounds of Love, that's like a film, isn't it? That's a movie.
Yeah. Very
So I
cinematic.
think it's sort of, it It's probably because we're trying to go for something that evokes images in your head as opposed to telling you what to think. And that's part of the reason why one of the things I've always said is that you're not really interested in my life. You're probably a hell of a lot more interested in your life. So the idea is to make the music where you can put whatever parts you're willing to of yourself into the music. And the same goes for the lyrics. So where you can put whatever's happening to you or with you, you might find some snatches of lyric or some of the stories in the lyrics might fit your situation. And that's sort of the idea of the music to be a place where it can merge a little bit more with the listener.
Tell me how a Gazpacho song gets started. Is it always starting with music? Is it always starting with a musical idea? Do the lyrics ever come first?
Lyrics always come last. So we make an instrumental. So we jam out something, usually John and I, the guitar player, and then we make a longer piece. Then Jan-Henrik comes in and he refuses to listen to the music before he tries to sing. So he'll grab anything. He can grab a newspaper, some poetry he's found. We used to use Bob Dylan lyrics, just anything that rhymes
Mm-hmm.
in any language. And then he would try to sing over the instrumental that he still hadn't heard and hope that luck might make some of the notes he would hit match the chord in the music, which he didn't know was coming up. And then whenever something came up, we would work it out from there and make the melody, the top line, as they say. We'd finish the entire composition. And then once it was done, we would sit down and write the lyric. So a lot of times we're working with these long songs and we're working for lyrics can be completely silly stuff. It could be like I was late for the airport, because my car had a flat tire in the most intense section of the song. And then but then that lets us know where to go for the emotional high points in the lyrics, if that's what we're going for. Because we know that moment's the moment where something happens that's magical. And we'll try to get the lyric to at least not ruin that. So the lyrics always last.
Now, your approach to lyrics, does Jan-Henrik write them, or do you write them collaboratively?
Jan-Henrik and I write them together. So he will write down whatever he actually sang on the demo, whatever mess that is. And then we just know that we need to hit the exact same rhythm for our lyric. So then we'll usually by that time, we'll usually sort of listen to the song and talk about what do you think this song wants to be about. It's a little hippie-ish, but I think songs sort of are alive and I think they know what they want. And I know this sounds very sort of airy fairy, but I think it's important not to stand in the way of the song and let the song get what it wants. And that same goes for the lyrics. You can hear, well, this song's probably about that. And then we write about that and then we smash the words in so where they all fit and the rhythm still works.
Okay.
So it's all luck.
Well, I think there's a lot of skill involved. So I think maybe you're being a little hard on yourself, but
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
um, you do a lot of thematic stuff throughout an album, some conceptual albums. When you write the lyrics, are you cognizant that you've got one thread that you want to weave through the entire album, or does that happen after you've done one or two songs?
Usually we know we're working on a certain theme or a thread, as you say. But it's the older I get, the more it strikes me that usually the subconscious knows where it's going. So, like in the case of this album, I only realized 2 or 3 days ago what the lyrics actually were about because it struck me that they all did have a theme that tied them together, and that wasn't. And the theme that they were supposed to be tied together was the idea of the moment we remove God from the equation in our modern scientific worldview world, we left an empty throne. There was no one to take God's place. And then the only thing that sort of took that empty throne, because no throne ever stays empty, is chance. So the songs are supposed to be 8 songs, as in the 8 answers you get from a magic 8 ball. And those are supposed to be 8 different fates, because each one of us sort of we are born and we are assigned a fate. So you became you and I became me and they became them. And those are the cards you got. And you have to, that's the hand you have to play. And there's no one you can call. You're on your own. But it struck me when I revisited the lyrics now because I was getting ready to start talking about the album that every single song is about someone who's trapped in a certain situation, which I guess you could probably say we all are anyway. I mean, you're trapped as you, and I'm trapped as me, and we're trapped in our situation. So, what I'm trying to say is, I think the conscious person that is me or that is you is sort of thinks we think we're in the pilot seat, but I think the subconscious is the real thing, which is piloting, and we're just sort of passengers riding the body and riding the subconscious mind.
So we're reacting to the things that are already happening.
Yeah, but you're not the person reacting.
Right.
You're reacting to the way you reacted. So you're justifying the things you did, but the things you did were done by your reptile brain, which made the decision a long time before you made it or think you made it. That's what I think anyway.
Okay. That's an interesting thought and
I
kind
have
of
some proof.
kind of
You know,
depressing.
you know when you slip on ice
Yes.
and your body goes and it knows exactly how to balance your arms so you don't fall on your ass. That happens before you realize that happened. That was your instinct that took over.
Mm-hmm.
The instinct can take over at any time. That means it has to be in charge. I think maybe.
Okay. So, Magic 8 Ball. It's been 5 years since your last album, and I believe this is your longest gap between albums. Did this one just take longer? Was there a reason this one is was there a reason there's a bigger gap between these two albums?
It's a tragic story, which I will share with you now. We started right after, well, first of all, COVID hit, and that cost us about a year because our tour was canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So we made a live film instead, which we made at the St. Croix Center in Norway. And then we started work on a new album, which was a large concept album about a comet hitting Earth. So how would we react if we knew a comet was coming and you knew you had 3 more weeks or 3 days or whatever? And the idea of the album was that we wouldn't really change much because there's no way we can sort of eat that kind of information in the same way that we go about our daily lives, even though we're gonna die. I mean, basically, we're sitting in a plane that's crashing, and we know it's going to crash, but we're still watching sports, you know. But but then that film came out, Don't Look Up. Remember that with
Yes.
Leonardo DiCaprio?
Yeah.
That was our entire album. I saw a trailer. I'm like, what the hell is this? It turns out that was our album, and we weren't done. So we sort of thought, what the hell are we going to do? Because we can't release an album based on a Leonardo DiCaprio flick. That would, wouldn't be right.
Yeah.
And our album was a little bit more of a memento mori sort of theme, but it was basically the same story. So at one point, we just said, we're just going to have to bite the bullet and drop the whole thing. And that took some time to sort of swallow that pill. But once we did, we got cracking on the new one, and things were working sort of quickly with it. But I think that's why this album is a little bit more, you could say, rocky, has more rock in it, and a little bit louder and a little bit faster and more energetic than the usual Gazpacho albums. That may be probably because we're coming from the Dropped album, which was very hypnotic and very sort of buildy.
Mm-hmm.
The only song which is saved from that album is the song on Magic 8 Ball, which is called Sky King, which we repurposed some of the music for that.
Okay. It's extremely interesting to me that you had that concept for an album because one of my most recent episodes that I put out, I talked to Arjen Anthony Lucassen, who just released songs that no one will hear. Songs no one will hear is about a meteor or asteroid is coming to crash into Earth in 5 months, and how do people react to that? He says he did not see that movie, because I asked him that question. I was like, did you get the idea from that? So it's very interesting that you guys came up with the same idea separately, and also this movie was made, not too long ago.
First of all, I've heard about that album. I decided I was going to listen to it. I didn't know it was about a comic. But also, he owes us a pint, doesn't he? Because we would have been out before him, so we could have ruined his album.
Yeah.
So DiCaprio ruined our album, which could have ruined his album. So he owes us a drink. Let him know, please.
Is that the circle of life?
That's the circle of life. Because we
Yeah.
would have been, that album would have been out 2.5 years ago, and it would have destroyed his total work. But I
Wow.
look forward to hearing it. Maybe I'll get in touch with him. We'll share demos and we'll see
You
how it all
should.
went down.
You should. That would be amazing. And I think that Jan-Henrik has a voice that would lend itself very well to what he does with Arion. So I do think you guys should get together.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll make sure to do that.
Let's talk a little bit about Magic 8 Ball. You talk about your subconscious. You talked about this concept of God's gone, who's on the throne. And according to the press release, it mentions fate a lot. It themes of fate and what will happen to you. And you brought up the word fate as well. Um, is this something that you, or maybe someone else in the band, is this a concept that you are struggling with? Do you struggle with ideas of faith, or are anybody is anybody in the band religious, for example?
Not in the traditional sense of religious, no, I wouldn't say that. But I think that, at least to me, I'm not going to speak for the other guys because we haven't really discussed religion. And this is not about the Christian God or the Muslim God or the Hindu God. But I think that to me, it's just such a silly idea that there's nothing. The idea that we understand everything because we've got our scientific theory and we've got the sort of basic idea of what the world is like and how it works. To me, it just seems silly. It with the universe this complicated of this size, the idea that we have any idea whatsoever of what's going on is just, to me, it's childish.
Mm.
It's absolutely, to me, I cannot understand how anyone can even entertain that idea for a short period of time. And every time science moves, it's like with, remember asbestos or that thalidomide, that drug they thought would
Yeah,
cure more
yeah,
sickness.
yeah.
Every time we think we're king of the hill, we sort of, you change one thing and something else is destroyed over there. It's just such a weird notion for me. And I think, and as tired as this sentence is, but Nietzsche's God is dead from Zarathustra, which is a warning about what's going to happen when we remove God, which ended with World War One. But I think he was onto something. That the moment you remove, I mean, I'm not only talking about our religious ideas, no matter which religion you are and what you believe, but when we also remove tradition, we remove our ideas of being whatever tribe we are. We remove our ancestors from the picture because now I know that how electricity works, which we don't, by the way. But now, since I've got electric lights, screw them. I think it's just such a it's such a it's too light. It doesn't have any depth. Existence has a lot more meaning than what our way of looking at the world allows. So that's a couple of albums ago. We did an album called Moloch, which was based on the idea of determinism, which means that if you knew the position of every electron in the universe and you knew their movement, which way you could, from that, you could calculate what you're going to say 25 years from now at 6:15 while you're having a sandwich, because you could calculate everything that's going to happen because there will be no random in a deterministic universe.
Right.
And it's the same thing. If you believe quantum physics, or if you're fine with the Big Bang, but you think the idea of a God is stupid, what's the difference between the Big Bang and the idea of a God? You can't understand either of those ideas. They're too crazy. I don't even know which one is the craziest. Big Bang or God? Everything in this huge universe in a little point you could hold on the tip of your finger.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. You really get a sense of it when you see, that you get these photos that were sent back from these, probes that were sent out decades ago, and you see that they have to put an arrow that where the earth is because you can't even see it, and you really get a sense of how we are nothing in comparison.
Pale blue dot.
Yeah.
Talking about that picture that Sagan was talking about. I
Mhm.
saw this YouTube video the other day. If the Milky Way, which is our galaxy, there's 1,000 billion galaxies. We are one of them. If the Milky Way was the size of the United States, the sun would be the size of a red blood cell.
That's
That's
pretty cool.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it is. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, the song Starling kicks this thing off. It's the longest song on the album. And there was a passage in that lyrically that is, I mean, I find that your lyrics a lot of times, but in this album especially, I feel like they're very poetic. And there's a passage, told her to wait by our memories, find a nice spot by the pool of the violent words. The cars go by, but the house is going to stay and it's rattling its chains. Come stay by my side. There is no change. The ghoul will dance the night away as if the dead can dance when music is broken. I told her to wait by the moon. I don't know what that means, Thomas, but it's fantastic. I mean,
Thank, thank you very much. Very strong passage. Song. I agree with you. It's a cool idea. The idea for the song Starling is about someone who's stuck in a relationship where he or she, I've never gotten used to saying they, but every time I say he, imagine I'm saying he or she because sex doesn't matter.
mhm.
But it's someone who's stuck in a relationship which he believes is conditional love. So he thinks that if he shows who he really is, then the girl's going to fly away. It's like he has a bird on his shoulder, but if he turns his head towards the bird, it's going to fly away and disappear. So this is this situation. He's caught in a situation where he wants to keep her, but he thinks he's not good enough. That love is conditional. And that's this locked situation where the house is rattling its chains, and because he's got this sort of, he's tied down. He cannot show his ugly self.
He's a prisoner.
He's a prisoner. He's a prisoner of his own making, maybe,
Yeah.
but he's still a prisoner. We don't know if she would leave him or if she would love it if he opened up. But that's this relationship, which is sort of, it's an adult relationship. It's a real relation. It's a real thing, except it's just based on sort of half truths and half lies and just not an honest one. That's the idea, and that's why he tells her to wait by the moon. Wait until death or whenever the time comes where I might open up and see what happens, but he doesn't have the guts to try
Mm.
because he's scared that that bird will fly away. It's it's also a little bit maybe a metaphor for the creative spark as well, because it's the same thing, isn't it? You get an idea. It's like trying to remember something, and then if you try to search too hard, then you forget it.
Yeah, it goes further away. You lose the
Yeah,
thread completely.
weirdly,
Yeah.
or trying to remember your dream. It's like, oh, God, it went away.
Yeah.
So that's the Starling. And I talked to Billy Reeves from who did the podcast for Kscope. He told me that in the UK, I don't know if it's like that in the US, but in the UK, they see the Starling is a bit of a bully bird. Is it the same in the US? If a
I
starling comes in the garden, it scares away all the little birds.
I don't I don't know. I don't There's not a lot of bird talk in the United States. We have the dove is the symbol of peace, and there's different things, but there's not a lot of bird talk. Um but this passage, in the passage I just read, the cars go by, is a line that it is echoed in another song, at least one other song that I can think of off the top of my head. Is that just to indicate, just that the world's moving on, or is there specific meaning to that line?
It's just to indicate that the world moves on, life moves on, but it's also because of that song series, it's also a little bit of the, it's not just the world moves on, it's the modern world moves on.
Mm.
There are cars, not carriages in the streets. So this modern world is very alienating, I think. And I think we're painting our, each person is sort of retreating into his or her, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop saying that at some point,
It's fine.
his or her own bubble. And the song series is about how we discovered agriculture and removed ourselves from the natural state. And the idea of that is that we thought we were putting down roots, but then the roots turned around, came up, and pulled us into ideas of ownership of property, societies, governments, police, taxes, all the wars, conflict, all these things which we probably weren't designed for. So agriculture was maybe more of a trap than a blessing, I think. It's sort of, when I talk to you now, I'm starting to see that there's a sort of Luddite anti modernity thing happening here. I'm sorry. Just realize it now. We're not Luddites. I'm talking to you on a MacBook,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but well, weirdly, yeah, I see that. I'm saying agriculture's, you know, a problem, but I think it might be. I think maybe the god Ceres is the Roman god for spring, and you worshipped it because you hoped that you damn well hoped when it was winter that spring would come around next time around, because else you were in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
They worshipped her and they would sacrifice things to her. But in the song, we become the sacrifice, and we're pulled down into the ground along with the roots. And the idea of that song is maybe Ceres is a demon. But that's where the cars, it's the modern world, the cars going by.
Got it. I enjoy that. I enjoy trying to dissect Gazpacho lyrics. It's I'm of two minds. One, it's frustrating when I can't figure out what you mean, but two, it's so much more rewarding when I do figure out what you mean.
This is the idea. It's sort of like, well, they're not John Anderson lyrics, I would say, because that's just, I don't understand it. But I do know that "To the Heart of the Sunrise" means something to me.
Mm-hmm.
And though these lyrics probably, I'm not gonna, I don't really know what's going on with John Anderson's lyrics, but I kind of like them though.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're about anything, or if, I think I read somewhere he just sort of uses the words he thinks are right, and that's the end of that. Whereas
Yeah.
these sort of make a little bit more sense. But I think the idea that you can put some of yourself into it, like you probably might, Heart of the Sunrise could be about whatever you want it to be about.
Yeah.
There's something good about that too,
Yeah.
because I think listener participation is sort of a cool thing if the listeners bother and if they want to.
Yeah. And I know that some artists will not tell me what their lyrics mean. It's they want to leave it open for the person to make up their own mind about it. And I always feel like of two minds, because I feel like, one, that's a wonderful thing to do. It's a wonderful gift to give your audience, to let them have their interpretation, and it's the correct one. Um, but it's also at the same time really nice to know what's going on in the artist's mind when they create.
Yeah, I think both are very interesting. But I remember, again, when I got that Hounds of Love album, the B side. Do you know Hounds of Love intimately? The album.
I know it, but not. I would not necessarily know it intimately, or what's on the B sides of the single or anything.
Oh yeah, well, the B side of the actual LP, the album, was about a person who was lost at sea, and
Mm-hmm.
it was their subconscious trying to keep them awake, so they would stay awake until morning and be rescued. And I didn't know that for years. I had no idea. So I had all my own little images and dreams and ideas of what that was, and through my 14-year-olds, whatever I was, self into it. But once I learned what it was all about, I thought, well, that's great meat for the pot. Now I can listen to the song that way,
Yeah.
or I can listen to it that way, and I could sort of enjoy them both. So to
Yeah.
me, it just makes it richer. To me,
Yeah. Yeah. It did not ruin it for you. Knowing what it really meant did not ruin the album for you, which I think is an important distinction. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about was this title track, Magic 8 Ball. I was not aware that Magic 8 Ball was a global phenomenon. I thought it was a stupid thing that Americans had and used. But how prevalent is that object in Europe?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen one in Europe. But when I lived in Kuwait, I've also lived a little bit in the US with an American friend of mine where I came across the Magic 8 Ball. I thought it was fascinating. And weirdly, I always wanted to drink the liquid inside. I think probably is a really, really bad idea. Don't know
Probably a
if it
bad
is.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't think I've ever seen one in Europe. But we all know, at least everyone I've spoken to, we all know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's a toy. I've recently found out it's a Mattel toy. We're still waiting to get sued by Mattel. So if I do, I'll blame you. You don't
Okay.
mind me?
Yes.
You don't handle the
My
cost
giant
of that.
audience will give you away.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think that we know what it is, but I don't know. I've seen a lot of comments when we released a lot of Europeans were mocking the way it answers. Might happen.
Hmm.
I see in the future. I can't think of any of the actual replies.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has a certain special way of talking, doesn't it?
Ask
Well,
again later.
ask again later.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unlikely.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Well, what's interesting to me about the song, it seems quite different for a Gazpacho song. There's almost a carnival atmosphere, a calliope like sound, and I wondered what you were doing as a keyboard player. How did you happen upon that sound for this song?
Because it's a guy whose life is falling apart. He's gambled away all his money, or he's gambled something away. Could be whatever you like. And I thought, and he realized that he's the king of the clowns. So we needed some circusy sort of vaudevillian merry-go-round music with a Halloweeny sort of tint to it. So
Yeah.
that was the idea. Because the punchline, I guess you might say the chorus of the song, depending if it has a chorus, is that when he says, "It was your idea," when he
Mm-hmm.
sings your idea, that's when he realizes that whatever he's done, he's lost all his cash. He's invested in crypto or not invested in crypto for all the crypto bros out there. I don't know. Then he realized that it was his idea. He's the one to blame. There's no God, there's no destiny, there's no karma, there's no Buddha, there's no one to blame. You fucked up. Pardon the language. I'm sorry,
No problem.
but this was your idea. You did it, and you're to blame.
Yeah.
And he's sort of having a bit of a mental breakdown through that.
Got it. Yeah, you have to live with the consequences of your actions, and
Yeah,
he's
you do.
coming to grips with that. So yeah, I like that it fits, and I like that dark carnival vibe to the song. I think is fantastic. It's your first single from the record. Do you know what the second pre-release song will be?
Yeah, that's. I mean, this is K-Scope who wanted 8 Ball, Magic 8 Ball was the first single, and we thought, well, it doesn't really sound like a Gazpacho song. I would say that like Starling is a lot more like a traditional Gazpacho or any of the other songs.
I agree. Yeah.
Second single is going to be the second song, We Are Strangers,
Okay.
which is
Uh,
definitely not a Gazpachian song at all. To me, it sort of sounds like Rush if they were sick with the flu.
that is a great description. Um, oh, that's funny. Uh, there's a song called Immerwall, and it is. I looked this up on Google, and Google tells me that it means forever in Norwegian and always true in German.
I
So,
was not aware of that. I had
yeah,
no idea.
I mean, if Google is to be believed, then who knows if it is?
But that's really cool. It's about a woman, Clara Immerwahr, who was married to the scientist who invented, among other, back in the 1910, 1912. She was a serious female scientist at a time where there were very, very few of them. She was married to the guy who was a very famous chemist, and he invented something which I can't remember what it was now, but it was used in industry, and he became very wealthy and rich and loved. But he also invented the mustard gas, which he started using in World War II in the trenches. And Clara was completely against the idea of science being used to kill people. And he said, "Well, that's nice, honey, but we still need to have our dinner tonight, and we need to pay our rent. So, and he had the good old, if I don't do it, someone else is going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
which we're all using. And then on the night of her birthday, she said, if you leave tomorrow to go work on this stuff, we're finished. And then he said, all right, happy birthday. And then he left and she shot herself in the garden because she didn't want to be part of the science that was used like that. So it's a bit of a tribute to her because, again, this whole album is about destiny and sort of a little bit about that idea of science taking the place of God, making it sort of a magic eight ball of chance, whatever happens.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like the song Magic Eight Ball, it's about taking responsibility for absolutely horrendous things. And that's why the lyrics of that song, MOR has got all the jitterbug and the tango with the mad and everything, is because it's a little bit like the dance of those guys who are struck by the gas and convulsing, sort of. It's a very dark undertone, I think.
Yeah. Well,
But
what a great world it would be if everybody took that tactic and said, I don't want science to be responsible for murder.
yeah, and at least we're not going to use it for murder.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah,
to be careful how we use science.
yeah.
Maybe treat it very reverently because, like asbestos or so many other things, I'm sure that sometimes I feel a little bit like mankind are like teenagers, and the parents are God's away for the weekend, and we're having a great big party, and some of us are playing with some of Dad's oils and alcohols in the garage, and tinkering with the stuff, hoping it doesn't blow up. That's what mankind feels like a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. No argument. But yeah, it did not occur to me, knowing that this is a Norwegian band, it occurred to me to look it up to see if it meant something else. It didn't occur to me to see if it was a person. So I'm glad you gave me the backstory on that.
Yeah, it's a
Uh,
little bit of a dark backstory, so it'll give you nightmares for the rest of your life. And I mean, I think that song is important that we know because I mean, what a ballsy thing to do, to
yeah.
kill yourself because you cannot live with this situation. She's in fact the only person that escapes out of all of these people on the album. She's the only one that gets away.
Interesting. Another interesting thing is that the fact that the number 8, when looked at sideways, is the infinity symbol, and that's something that's very prevalent in your press materials. Was that part of what you were thinking of the entire time, or did the 8 ball come from the infinity symbol?
The idea was that in in our idea of this random and chance and just statistics being our new God, then the idea was that there was a cult and that God is in there, symbolized by the infinity, the infinite being,
Mm-hmm.
but we're just looking at it the wrong way. So for the video promotional film for the song Magic Eight Ball, we sort of made a little bit like a sort of found footage like film of this from this cult who worship the Magic Eight Ball because it's infinity. They have the crab as their symbol because the crab doesn't move forward or backwards; it moves sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Because they believe that history and memory are bad things. Because the only thing that isn't random is the past. The past is sort of locked in. Whatever happened yesterday, you're not really going to change that too much. So because it's locked away in the past, it is evil because random chance is the God side of it. So what they want to do is they want to restart humanity, sort of restart Windows by burning the libraries, burning the archives, burning the idea of our ancestors, our religions, our family names, our countries, our everything, and start fresh. Because so much of the hatred in this world is sort of inherited, isn't it?
Yes, pretty much all of it.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, there's always going to be the factor of greed, which is
Yes, yes,
which is there, but there's so many ideas that are inherited, and basically, whenever you meet anyone, everyone's sort of a nice person when you meet them. So if we could just restart.
yeah.
And if we could all just say, let's just let it all go and we start again from fresh. And that's what this cult that we're sort of playing with was all about. And the cult actually came from when we're working on the actual album, we thought we just had this debate on, what kind of a cult would that be? and then we tried sort of making it. We had fun coming up with the idea of just of this the crab moving sideways, and that you're always looking at everything the wrong way, which is a little bit like saying you can look at a leaf and you look at the way those cells are made and how damn complicated and beautiful it is, but you can't see that there's something in there that's not just chance and random. I understand evolution, I understand all that, but the idea of the human mind is still sort of a little bit of a complicated thing happening there.
Yeah, I would say so. Um, Thomas, do you have a favorite song on this record?
Right now, it's probably "We Are Strangers" because I think it is weird and fun, and we're going to play it live, and we're really scared how we're going to count it because it has some strange timings and strange timings of chord changes in there. So I'm a little bit scared about it, but right now I think it's a cool song, and I think it's the closest Gazpacho will ever get to a cool song because we don't have cool songs. We have something else. But this is something that someone might like.
Well, I think a lot of people like your music, and I think you have some cool songs. You mentioned Rush, and Rush is famously a band that always tried to write songs in ways that it was pushing them as musicians to be even able to play. And it sounds like that's what you did with We Are Strangers.
It was definitely because it just it might work, and it's sort of it didn't make any musical sense. And our drummer was he wanted to kill me. He said, if we play this live, I will murder you. He's a big guy. He's a huge person. He used to be the bodyguard for Baby Spice from the Spice Girls.
No kidding.
He's a trained killer. And he just looked at me and said, if we're doing this live, I'll kill you. But I eventually got him to do it. But it's definitely pushing the how far, how different, how weird can we do this and still make it work while still trying to not make it too straightforward because so many other people are taking care of making straightforward music. That's covered. And soon it will be totally covered by AI. So, our chance is to try and make things that are as sort of, I'm not going to use the word groundbreaking because it's not groundbreaking, but at least as creative as we can make it through our limited resources.
When you play this live, this are you the type of band that will play this album start to finish, or will you just pick some songs that you like and mix it in with your past album stuff?
It's damn difficult. We're probably going to mix some of the new songs with some of the old ones because I think most people that come to gigs want to see older songs that they know and love, and they're not really into the new album yet. We're touring in April, March, so they have time to get into this one. But usually I think people want a mix of things. We're going to try and make a mix of things and do some of the older songs that we haven't played for a long time and see if we can make a set list that sort of makes everyone happy, which is always difficult because in real life, no one was ever happy, when the committee was making the choices. But I think here you need to respect that a lot of people, to us, we play the songs every day. We are used to them. But for many people, they haven't seen it for 2 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
They might be into hearing some of the older stuff as well.
And it's hard to know what to play across 12 albums that will make the most people happy. I'm sure that coming up with a set list is a difficult
it's very hard.
Yeah.
And also sometimes we think, oh, that song is going to be great live. And then when we try to rehearse it, it just sort of feels flat, or it feels like we're not getting the vibe of it right. So you never really know.
Yeah. What is the audience like? I'm curious because I haven't talked to a lot of folks in Norway. What is the progressive rock audience size in a country like Norway? Do the gigs draw a lot of people there for this type of music?
It's not that bad. The size, we don't have many Norwegian fans at all. So we're completely unknown in Norway, probably our least, the country where least people know of us.
Wow.
But the actual progressive rock population in Norway is not that bad at all. If I go to other gigs, if you take a look at, like if someone like Dream Theater would come to Norway, if you could, and I would say that's sort of progressive, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. Progressive
and
metal.
They'll fill a stadium, easily fill the same stadium that Roger Waters played the night before. They'll fill it immediately. So there is a huge market here. but I don't know who they are.
Okay, fair enough. Um, where do you find that Gazpacho gets the biggest reception in terms of venue size?
I would say probably Holland, Germany, UK. Those are the three big ones. Uh, why? I don't know. Because, but to answer your question, it's Netherlands, Germany, and the UK.
I will selfishly ask you if there's any chance that we will see you on our side of the Atlantic Ocean here in the U.S. I know it's our country does not make it easy for European bands to come over here and play.
No, but wherever we can travel very lightly. We were on the recent cruise to the edge, and as long as there's a backline with drums, we don't use amps. I can hire keyboards because all my sounds come out of my Mac. So we're sort of, I mean, we can travel even with just a couple of suitcases, and we can come play anywhere. And if we're invited, we're not going to the cruise to the edge coming up next year, but if we're invited to the one after that, we're talking about trying to have some dates in the US. So that will be in 2 years if we're invited back.
Well, I'm sure you'll be invited back. I'm sure you were well received on the cruise. I've heard good things, and I know that like Steve Hackett, for example, next year is doing some shows in Florida around the cruise to the edge. So he'll be local here, and I've seen him a couple times. He's always fantastic. But when someone listens to this album start to finish, Thomas, how how do you want them to react to that? How would if you had your choice? How do you think people should, or how do you hope they will receive this music after listening to the album start to finish?
I would hope that they would react to it like how you react to when you're scrolling Instagram reels. There's a new interesting thing comes up, and you can sort of stick with that, or you can move on. And I think that this is the kind of album which, I mean, as terrible as this sounds, it's a little bit like an album where you have to do some homework. And if, again, this sounds so cheesy, I feel terrible. I started sweating now when I thought of this next sentence I'm going to say, but it's a little bit like a good book in the sense that if you bother to sit down and you take the time to get into it, you might get something more out of it than some other things. So that's what I hope people get out of it. I hope they can get an emotional experience from listening to the album. And I think they can do that if they allow themselves into the songs and seeing how would any of this sort of fit my situation, or is there anything in here that I can use?
I think it's a fair thing to want, and at least in my case, that's what happened. And I will tell you, there's something good in every Gazpacho album, and but yet this is probably my favorite thing you've done since TikTok, which I really resonated with the title track to TikTok. That one really stands out as a favorite for me. But this is my favorite album, start to finish, since TikTok.
Oh, thank you. Makes me very happy.
Yeah. So
Right now we're now knee deep into working on our next album, which the working title now is TikTok 2. So we're kind of thinking of having someone try to escape to the desert this time instead of crashing it. And we're working on lots of sort of deserty Arabian music for some long sort of hypnotic pieces. Because we sort of felt that after this album we could go back to those. So we might maybe we'll get a best of all worlds. But thanks for saying that, because it's always difficult. And whenever we finish an album, I can't listen to it for at least 3 years because all I can hear are all the mistakes and all the things that I regret and all the stuff I think, oh my, I should have done that better. We should have changed that, and that line was cheesy. But then when I hear them after 3 years, right now I've just started listening to the album Soyuz, which is 2 albums ago, and that was fine. I mean, I couldn't listen to it at all for many years.
mm-hmm.
So soon, a couple of years, I'll be doing Fireworker, and then in 5 years, I'll be doing this one.
You get
But
back around to this one,
but,
yeah.
but thanks for saying that, though. That meant a lot because it's always so damn scary.
Yeah, you're putting yourself out there and you don't know how it's going to be received. So I hope others have the same reaction that I had and enjoy it. I'm sure they will. Is there a place where people can buy this that helps the band more than going to Amazon and just buying it through Amazon?
Via our website. You get if they buy through our website, gazpachoworld.com, and we get more money for each album.
Right.
And we should buy all the merch as well. We've got some great T-shirts, and we're hoping to have some fun merch made for this. And I'm sure Mattel won't mind if we make a lot of 8 balls. I mean, you think they'd mind that at all?
Not if they get their cut, they won't.
Oh, yeah. So that's we're looking into that, but we're going to have some cool merch. At least I think the 8 ball with the infinity symbol is something I'd love to have on a T-shirt. I think that looks cool.
Yeah,
So
it does.
we'll make some cult merch for all the cultists who want to get into the cult of the 8 ball and work for the restart windows of history.
Yeah. Who did the artwork? It's a fascinating cover.
It's Antonio Sayas, same guy that's been doing all our work since the Fireworker album. No, Firebird, sorry.
Firebird. Yep.
Damn, those are similar titles. That never struck me until now. This is like getting it to shrink. Have you got some tissues? Because I'm going to cry now.
I wish I did because my nose is running a little bit. But
No, he's a fantastic Spanish artist. He loves to. He needs all the lyrics. He listens to the music, and he sometimes finds some really cool things that we didn't see in the songs. And sometimes, if we're working on finalizing the album, because he'll get the demos of sometimes the silly lyrics first, and then he gets the lyrics as we make them. Sometimes we'll add ideas that he had in his artwork. We might add that to the final lyrics. So he's sort of the seventh member of the band in some sense, because he seems to have this visceral understanding of what we're doing, and he really, I think it supports the album. It wouldn't be a complete package without him, I don't think.
Rush had Hugh Simon, and you have your own.
Yeah, I guess you could say that, but I mean, I really think that the artwork, because the music is very visual, I think cinematic, as you said earlier, maybe, it's important that the images are just as open as the music. So you don't see something very concrete. It's a very dreamy, mushroomy, well, not mushroomy, but it's an image, a dream state like image, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, Magic 8 Ball comes out on K-Scope Records October 31st. Go out and buy it. It's worth it. Thomas, I've enjoyed you telling me a little bit about this and about your background. I hope the album does great for you. I wish you nothing but the most success with it. And thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. Nice to talk to you.